Hello and welcome to Your City. I'm your host, Lynne Turner Fitzgerald. Joining us today is Brandon Schmidt. Brandon is the supervisor at Mountview Cemetery in Billings. I want to welcome you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, I know Mountview Cemetery has been around quite a while. Do you know exactly when it got started?
Well, it started as a private cemetery in 1882.
Oh.
The O'Donnell family, they had a farm there, and they started a private cemetery. Then as Billings grew, in 1922, the city of Billings started Mountview Cemetery. And then over the course of the next few years, they kind of integrated them for the Billings Cemetery and Mountview, so now it's just all one cemetery.
It's big. How many acres is it?
65 acres.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, at the time, in the late 1800s, that would have been a long ways out of town.
You would have, yeah. It was a ways out of town
Yeah.
at that time, yeah. Yeah, you look, it's interesting, you look at old pictures and it's just nothing but fields and
I know.
nothing out there.
I know.
Yeah.
And now we have a golf course too.
Yeah, right.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
So is the cemetery still, is it full?
No, we by our best estimate, about 80 years left based on how people are using cemeteries
Right.
currently. That obviously changes throughout time. We have a bunch of cremations now. Back when it first started, cremations wasn't really a thing.
Right.
So
Needed a full plot.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
But as people's views change and technology changes, people view what they do with their remains differently. So who knows in 50 years what's going to happen?
It could be anything.
Right.
Well, now that you are smack dab in the middle of the city, along a very busy street, there have been some issues. Not so long ago, a car, and not the first time, a car careened off into the cemetery and knocked down how many headstones?
So this is we've had 3 incidences
Right.
in the last 4 years. The first one, about 30 headstones were taken out, and that was in 2020. And then July of last year, another car came off of Central and took out 22 headstones. And then in November last year, another 15 were destroyed and about another 15 damaged to some degree.
Does it all happen in the same location, or does it vary?
So the incident in 2020 and then the last one in November was in the same location. And a lot of the stones that are getting replaced now were stones in 2020.
Wow.
And then both of those accidents took out our front sign. Just coming around that corner, exact same spot. The one in last July was just a little ways west of there.
Okay. So what's the problem with that stretch of land?
It
looks to me like there's no way to deviate.
Yeah, and it's there's been no common cause. Every incident's different. The one in July, the gentleman dropped a coffee cup. It went underneath his brake pedal.
Oh.
So then he hit another vehicle and then got directed into the cemetery. The other one was basically an inattentive driver, and he wasn't paying. I don't want to speculate what he was doing, but another car surprised him, and to avoid it, he, my best estimate, overreacted, and then drove off into the cemetery.
Now, what is protocol for you after something like that happens?
Obviously, I come out and take documentation, take pictures, figure out what stones were damaged. We'll get all that recorded. We'll fill out VA paperwork because the VA will replace those stones.
So the most recent was in the veterans section.
All 3 of those incidences were in the veterans section.
They were all in the veterans.
Yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
okay. Oh,
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So, yeah, then I'll fill out the VA paperwork, and then they'll replace the damaged headstones. And then, whether it's dealing with somebody's insurance or filling out an affidavit if they don't have insurance to try to recoup some of that costs for the labor and of replacing those stones.
So the labor is on the cemetery,
Yes, ma'am.
not on the VA.
Right, correct.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
they'll provide the stones, but we have to remove the old ones, prep the site, and place the new ones. And
Wow.
Billings Monument's they're great with helping with that. They do almost all our veteran stones.
Yeah.
They're in the cemetery. So anytime we need something, they're very willing to help and come
That's
help
good.
replace those stones.
To have a partner like that.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so to prevent future accidents, you got some pylons. I call them pylons. Maybe that's not the right word.
They're 3 foot by 3 foot by 3 foot concrete planters.
Okay.
So in the spring, I think they look pretty good now, but in the spring, right, you can see them there.
They will have flowers.
They'll have flowers
Oh,
in
that's
them.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when I saw them, obviously recently, there was nothing in them.
Yeah, so there'll be flowers in there, and my hope is that this is a temporary solution. I really would like a concrete wall all the way down that stretch. I think this will certainly help. I don't think it's not 100% going to prevent a vehicle. They can still find ways in there.
Right.
If we had a concrete wall, I think that would be a better solution. But this, I think, in the meantime,
It'd be attractive, more attractive
right,
for sure.
But yeah, I think this looks great now, and then once we get, in the spring through the fall, once we have there's some vegetation in there and some flowers, I think it'll look nice.
That'll look great.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me, how long does it take for you to remedy one of these situations?
The one in July, it took a few months. We had a big volunteer event there in October where we were able to place the new stones. So that was 3 months. It takes a month, maybe 6 weeks to get the replacement stones in from the VA. And then this last incident, it's weather right now is kind of slowing us down from replacing them. We're actually starting to work on them today, see how if the ground's frozen, just to see what we can do.
Yeah.
But for sure, want to get those all replaced by Memorial Day.
So then, is there, do you have to contact family members when something like this happens?
So that can be a challenge in finding,
Some of
those
these
were
are very old, right?
A lot of these folks were a couple World War I vets,
Okay.
World War II vets.
Yeah.
So that could be a challenge. A lot of times the news does that for us. Every time there's an incident, it's obviously the community is obviously interested. So a lot of times, the news helps me notify them folks.
Well, that's good. Okay. Well, hopefully that's going to be at least a temporary solution.
I hope so, and I hope we don't have to test it anytime soon.
Right.
But hopefully that'll. But each of those planters, by the time we fill them with the concrete and the dirt, it'll be about 3,000 pounds. So I imagine that would slow a car down.
Yeah. Well,
pretty
let's
good.
hope so.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to ask you about is I saw recently, several months ago, I guess, that Mountview Cemetery is going to begin, or has already begun, offering a green burial.
Yes,
Do I
ma'am.
have that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it in place now?
It is. It is. It's been in place a little over a year now.
Okay.
We've only done one.
Okay.
Which we've had a lot more. That got some news coverage as well.
Yeah.
And then so that's raised a lot of interest. We've had a lot of folks come and talk to us about them. We've had a couple people buy plots with the intention of having a green of being buried there. But so far we've only done one.
Okay. So describe that process to me.
So typical, what we normally think of as a burial today, or what would normally happen there, is somebody's going to be in a casket, a manufactured casket, whether it's metal or plastic or something. Then that will go in a vault of some sort. So we'll have a vault in the ground, we'll lower the casket in there, put a lid on it.
Is it a cement vault?
It can be. Typically, most of them now are poly vaults, which are pretty strong. They withstand about 10,000 pounds force.
May I ask what the purpose is?
It's really to help prevent settling, and as the if they were caskets were just exposed to the environment, they would eventually break down, and then you get kind of a sinkhole where the grave is.
I see.
If you put it in a vault, we can then compact the dirt around the salt, the vault pretty well. So then we don't have that settling.
Okay.
In the older section where they didn't have that, and when it was wood caskets, I mean, it's pretty noticeable. And then we got to come back and fill that in. And a lot of times the headstone will be tilting because as the ground settles, it kind of tilts that headstone. At any rate, so a typical burial will have that vault, and then, like I said, we'll compact the soil in pretty good, so that's pretty secure in there. A green burial is there's no vault there. It's either going to be a wicker casket, a cardboard casket, or just a shroud, something that'll deteriorate pretty quickly. So then we'll just put those in there. We'll fill it with dirt, and then instead of compacting it with machinery, we'll put some water on it to help that process, and then just over time, then we'll have to come back and revisit that grave again, knowing that it's going to settle.
Is the body embalmed?
No, that's another big thing. A big part of green burials is kind of getting back to nature and a natural, the natural way of things. And we wouldn't want those chemicals and stuff leaching into the ground. Right. So no, it has to be certified by a mortician that it has not been embalmed.
I see. Okay. So this is relatively new to Billings, but I imagine it's been done for some time in other locations.
We're going back to the beginning of time.
Well, yeah.
You're right.
Right.
But there's kind of got away from it. I know a lot of times, like on the reservations, they'll have natural burials. But like in Billings, it hasn't been done in quite some time. And a lot of other cities are now, I know we're the only one certified by the Green Burial Commission.
In Montana? In
Montana.
Okay.
And with, there's other cemeteries. The closest one is Salt Lake City.
Okay.
So within 500 miles, we're the only one. It
has to drastically reduce the cost, I would think.
It's as far as the cemetery, the plot will be the same cost.
Sure.
The labor cost will be the same for digging the hole and filling it back in. You don't have to buy a vault, so that's cheaper.
Right.
We do charge a fee because there will be future work that will have to be done to that grave.
Like what?
Well, like I said, there's going to be settling.
Oh, okay.
And stuff. So we'll have to come back and fill that in and reseed it and resod it. So that will have to be done. So there's a fee for that. But overall, for the cemetery, it's a lot cheaper. And I don't want to. National average, it's about $5,000 cheaper. Of course, all depends on what services you get from the funeral home and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to speak for what they're charging on things, but national average is about $5,000 cheaper for a green burial.
Do you think that's going to be a popular trend?
I believe it. I believe it's. I think it'll work. Yes, I do. As people become more, conscientious about the environment, and instead of having to make all these caskets and the vaults and all that other things and the chemicals that actually go into embalming an individual, and then just kind of the natural order of things. The human
ashes
remains
to ashes, dust to dust.
Human remains going back and kind of cycling, into that is the natural. The human body going back and nurturing the ground and allowing, helping plants grow and just kind of the natural cycle of things. I think that, that's becoming more, people are more conscientious about that now. And I think the cost will help drive that a little bit as well.
Are there any any sanitary issues involved with the green burials?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. I've heard of another type of burial that I don't think is available in Montana yet. It's kind of a mulching process.
Yeah, and I'm not aware of that in Montana either. It's they'll store human remains, and they'll put microbes with those remains to help kind of speed the decomposition process. And then you're left with, you know, I'm not sure the exact what you're left with, but you're left with something, mulch, I guess.
Enriched dirt.
Enriched dirt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard that in families, if they get dirt, they can take the dirt that's enriched with the remains of their loved one and plant a tree
Right,
or
yeah.
a garden or
Yeah.
really use it however they like.
They're right, and there's all sorts of options, I guess, for people. There's also, you know, urns that I don't know exactly what they're made of, but they decompose rather quickly.
Oh.
And so then people plant an urn and then plant a tree on top of that.
Oh.
And then the urn will kind of deteriorate and
With
then
the
feed
ashes.
with the ashes, and then the ashes help
Interesting.
nurture the tree. And
Is that available here?
not in our cemetery. We don't do that. We have certain places where we can plant trees.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
but
yeah.
so we haven't offered that. It might be an option that we could look at in the future of
Right.
how we can make that happen.
Well, space is always a concern now with cemeteries across the country.
Right.
And you said about 80 more years for Mountview Cemetery. What happens after that?
Right. That's the. It'd be. I'm sure. You know, it's a decision for people way down the road.
Right,
But
yeah.
But par 3, that golf course there was designated as cemetery expansion. I don't foresee that ever people in the community ever letting that happen.
No.
But so that's a decision for people 80 years
Right.
down the road, and I think it'll go much as I said, as technology and people's views change, and how they deal with death, and those remains. I think those will continue to evolve, and at some point, I don't know when it'll be, but I think cemeteries will probably become obsolete at
Do
some
you?
point.
Well, that's certainly a discussion that's going on in large cities.
Right.
There's no room left.
Yeah, and I know in a lot of places, especially Europe, you don't buy a grave, you lease a grave. And if you don't pay your bill, if your family doesn't pay your bill, they'll pull you out.
You're out of there.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That seems kind of harsh.
Well, I imagine they've been around for a lot longer than we have. A lot more people have passed there.
Yeah.
And really a lot less ground
Right.
they have. So I guess that's been their solution, I guess.
Well, it's funny because I was driving past one of the cemeteries the other day, and there was one of those for lease flags up. It was on a business nearby, but I thought the irony. Now you're telling me it really happens.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, what about, now let's get back to Mountview today. Do you have certain periods of time when flowers or decorations are welcome? Do you limit that? How does a family deal with that?
So we, between middle of May to middle of October, they can decorate. They can have in-ground flowers.
Mm-hmm.
Between October and May, we don't like the in-ground flowers or flowers on the ground because they could get covered with snow. They could get and then we don't know they're there. We might run them over when we're preparing a grave or clearing snow. So that winter time frame where we could have snow, we don't like the in-ground or ground level flowers. But at any time, if they have upright monuments and they got the vases on their monuments, or they can decorate those upright monuments,
As long as you can see it.
as long as it's up off the ground and we can see it, right?
Okay, because you see wreaths and little Christmas trees.
Yeah, and we allow Christmas decorations, much like you decorate your house. A lot of people decorate it after Thanksgiving, so we allow Christmas decorations from that Thanksgiving to the first week of the new year.
Okay, so how does this work within the city of Billings? Does the city of Billings, they must make money on it?
No, we don't.
Okay.
We don't. We don't. I'm trying to close that gap a little bit, but for sure the cemetery is subsidized by the general fund.
Okay.
So I'm trying to gain ground on that, and where our operating cost is closer to the money we're generating. But we're a ways off on that yet.
Well, what are you doing? What are you implementing?
We had to raise our prices a little bit. We're offering new services, monument care type services.
Okay.
One plan that I'm working on, still trying to gain some traction, is I want to, so most people are cremated. Montana is actually one of the highest states for cremation, where about 75% of people are cremated.
Really?
Yes, ma'am. Over half of those want to be spread. They don't want to be buried anywhere. They want to be spread. And most of those people, they want to be spread in the mountains or in the river or places like that. But I think there's an opportunity for us to make a spreading garden, where it's just a kind of a nice area that people can come and spread their loved ones' ashes there, and then those nutrients will go back to the ground as well.
Would there be a marker that?
My intention, my thoughts for that is have kind of, if you think of like a war memorial where they got a big wall and then the names on there. My thoughts is if you spread your loved ones there, you could have their name
engraved
etched on that wall
okay.
with their years that they were here.
That's a great idea. Any plans for leasing anytime soon?
No.
We're not going to do leasing in Mountview Cemetery?
No, ma'am, not.
Well, can you tell me what a typical plot would cost? Does it vary where it is, the cost?
We have two, a couple. If somebody buys a cremation grave, which is much smaller, it's just will fit in one urn. That is about $600.
One time.
For that, right, $100 or $600 one-time fee.
Wow.
Correct. If they want a larger grave that would accommodate a casket, that's currently $1,100. We do have kind of what we call a premium section. It's over by the mausoleum. It's more private. You get a nice view of a pond on par 3 there.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of trees around. More park-like setting. Those are currently $1,800.
Okay.
There, but if we can fit 3 remains in one of those graves, so it can a family could fit 3 remains in one grave.
Oh.
Right? It can either be a casket and 2 urns, or 3 urns.
Okay.
They can. So.
All right. Well, tell me about the mausoleum. Is there still available space in the mausoleum?
Not for caskets. All of those spaces are
Those
taken
are gone.
up. Right. We have we call them urn walls in there, and then what we call simplicity niches, where basically a wall in which it has a little spot where you can put your loved one's urns, and then we could have a plaque made for them to have their name and the dates they were here. So there is room for cremains in the mausoleum.
Yeah. Okay, and what does that cost?
It depends. Locations, everything, right?
Right.
Even in real estate.
Right.
So I don't have the exact number off the top of my head, but like the ones closer to the ground and way up high, they're about $700, and then it varies as you come to the middle.
Right.
And then the ones in the middle, I think, are $1,100 about.
Right. And then do you have like little vases there so they could decorate?
Not on those urn walls.
No.
There's not really space to accommodate that there.
Okay. But their the plaque is there, and people can visit that.
Yes,
Wow.
ma'am.
Well, I learned a lot today.
Oh, good.
I appreciate you being here.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Brandon, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah.
Brandon is the supervisor at Mountview Cemetery. And thanks again for being with us. Thank you for joining us on Your City. We'll see you next time.